Potato, potato, potato on the rooftop.
So a little disclaimer before we start with the actual video. I know there hasn't been a show for a while and I really want to focus on shorter videos for now. That's because it's more gratifying for me to be able to actually finish videos in a shorter time frame. Those shows take a lot of time to make and sort of prevent me from putting my ideas out there faster. So I will focus on different things and also try out different things to be more up to date for the time being. And with that being said, let's continue on. If you know me, you know I play a lot of games in my free time, and I mean a lot. And I want to talk about the best games I got to experience in recent memory. So without further ado, here's my top 10 games I played, finished, and in my opinion should be on everyone's radar. Keep in mind that this is my personal list and your opinions might vary, so let me know in the comment section below what you have played and would recommend to everyone. Have fun with the list and see you next time. Man, SpiderMan 2. So I played the first one on PS4 and I completed the remastered version of it 100% on my PS5. I absolutely adore the game. The cast, the gameplay, the spectacle of it all. It's a fun and immersive superhero game, and in my humble opinion, Spidey is the best superhero there is. This year my girlfriend gifted me Miles Morales for my birthday, and I bought the second part and basically played it back to back. While at the end I was a little burned out on the formula, but those games just rule. The second part in particular is an upgrade to almost everything. Story, playable character, yeah, you can now play with both Spideys, which is awesome. The set pieces, and without spoiling, the baddies in this game absolutely slap ass. I cannot recommend the game enough, and at the end I even shed a tear or two because I had to say goodbye to my dude Peter. I didn't complete it 100% though, so I'm sure I will be back sometime in the... And if you haven't played it, you totally should. Lies of P is a surprising one. The only reason it's so far down the list is the fact that so many fantastic games came out the last couple of years and it's a Souls-like. That means even though it's absolutely fantastic, it's also hard as hell, and with that comes some frustration. In my opinion though, this is one of the best examples of a game that wears its inspiration on its sleeve but also tries to be its own thing. The world, mechanics and gameplay draw a lot of inspiration from games like Bloodborne and even Sekiro to some extent, but the own twists like customizable weapons and a more direct form of storytelling is really something else. If you're a fan of the genre and haven't given this one a try, I recommend you to do so. I can't wait to see what comes next. This was an awesome game from start to the very last secret boss. So Dragon's Dogma 2 came out and it got a lot of hate because of the microtransactions and also the performance issues it had at launch. While I do not want to go too much into detail, and while I agree that micros are not acceptable in a full price single player game, there were also a lot of misinformation spread surrounding them. So the shop is not intrusive at all. It's basically just a menu item on the very first screen of the game, and the microtransaction items are basically useless. I would go even as far as saying they make the game worse if you outright buy them, because the items in question are rare items in-game, and that's by design. Buying these would take away the feel of reward when you actually find them, and in case of the fairy stones, for example, which is a limited resource for fast traveling, it would take away the appreciation of the world and the journey instead of the destination if you just fast travel everywhere. You also find plenty of those in-game if you look for them, and you get them as quest rewards and even can buy them from vendors, so it's not a problem at all. I think this game is exceptional, and I think we need to support developers because those games should be made, and if we don't engage with the microtransactions, I think we send the right message. Boycotting the game will maybe just tell them that we don't like those games to be made, and I think this is a big mistake because the game is absolutely worth it. It reminded me of the joy I had when I first booted up Skyrim on my 360. The world is phenomenal, it's beautiful, the combat is fun and customizable. You know, the sense of adventure you get from this game is second to none. and it's also not holding your hand. It's very old schooly. It wants you to figure out stuff on your own, which I always appreciate. So you really get the feeling that the developers made a game for their fans. And I think this is something worth supporting. I'm glad it shipped a lot of units up until now, despite of the hate it got, because I really want to see a third entry in this series. And I really hope everyone gets to enjoy this after the devs fix the performance issues, because even though I have a very powerful PC with a 4090, I had major frame rate dips in larger cities, which definitely took away from the experience. What can I say about Resident Evil 4 Remake other than it's one of the greatest and most influential games of all time, made even better? Seriously, Capcom is on a roll remaking those games, and Resident Evil 4 is absolute peak when it comes to action survival horror games. I loved every second of it. I played some of it in VR and I was blown away by the nostalgia mixed with the sheer amount of awe when it comes to the work and passion that went into this game. It's rare that I start a new game immediately after the first playthrough. I did this with Dragon's Dogma, and I also did this with Resident Evil 4. If you like horror and you can stomach it and you haven't played it already, I don't know what you're doing here. Buy it, play it, and thank me later. I still can remember when the first God of War came out years ago on the PlayStation 2. The whole gaming industry was on fire. Everyone and their mother shared the same sentiment: this game fucking rules and is as brutal as it can get. Germany decided to not sell it because our politicians are a bunch of pussies, but 15-year-old me got his hands on it anyway, rented the PS2, and I devoured the game and the other parts in the series as well. When I heard about the full-fledged reimagine of the game in 2018, this was obviously a day one purchase for me, and it was huge. Capturing the lightning in a bottle yet again, with a shift in perspective and an older Kratos that now even has a son, sign me up. Shifted from the Greek to the Norse mythology, and it was glorious. But I also gotta admit I fell off the game because I didn't vibe with the gameplay too much when it released, but I finished it years later on my PS5 in just a couple of days. The second part of the series puts its own spin on the events of the end of the world, hence the name Ragnarok, and it's an absolute masterpiece. I recommend reading about Ragnarok to really appreciate the story in full, but gameplay, voices, graphics, world building, and the story itself, just amazing. If you can get your hands on it, you should play it, and there's no way around that. So growing up in the 90s, I had my fair share of first-person shooter experience, but I also dabbled with a lot of CRPGs like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. The issue back then was that I didn't really understand the rule set, I didn't know what D&D was, and this makes those games rather hard to wrap your head around. With Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios, the creators behind the lovely Divinity series, followed up with the most anticipated and successful CRPGs in recent memory. I'm sure you heard of it, because it's everywhere. It's winning all the prizes, including Game of the Year 2023. And if you follow the news, 23 was one of the most stacked years in gaming history. Since I love D&D and I'm now old enough to also understand the rule set, sort of, for me this game was pure magic. I really wish I had friends to play D&D at an actual table, but for now I get everything I need with this game. Dice rolls, in-depth character builds, almost infinite possibilities and decisions that have actual consequences. This game is D&D 5 in video game format for everyone to enjoy, either together with friends or alone like I did. Nintendo is special. They're always behind when it comes to technical advancement, but if they release a game or a console, you can almost always be sure that it innovates in some way and embraces the pure joy of playing video games. There are exceptions of course, but they rarely miss. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom might not be the best looking or best running game on the market, but hey, They managed to ship a game on a small cartridge that rivals the size of the biggest open world games out there, packed with innovation and ideas that work so good and give you so much freedom that it's fair to call this game one of the best sandbox adventure games to date, period. I loved my adventure so much. It was massive, it was thought-provoking, it was creative, and it was so much fun. So much to see, so much to experience. I rarely ever arrived where I wanted to go because there was just another thing over there that caught my attention and then funneled me into the next 8 hours of epic adventuring. After I played about 20 hours, I also bought the collector's edition for $200 and it now sits on my shelf and it will always remind me of what an outstanding game this is. As a Zelda fan myself, I sometimes do wish for a more traditional Zelda. What we got here with Tears of the Kingdom is just jaw-droppingly good. Please go and play this game. You will not regret it. I love Remedy. I own almost every game they've ever made, from Max Payne to Quantum Break to Control to Alan Wake. I love them all. And Alan Wake 2 was actually my personal game of the year 2023. I was pissed at first because it's a digital only release, and I still kind of am, because I think it's a goddamn shame that I cannot put this masterpiece into my shelf next to the others. But a friend of mine gifted me the game and I'm so glad I have played it. Sometime later I read about Epic funding the game and that being one of the reasons why it's digital only, and I cannot say if that's really the case. But you never know, if it sells well, maybe I can slap down my own money in the future and put a nice shiny box into my shelf. I would really appreciate this. This game deserves it all. It's a unique, brave, technical marvel. In fact, this game was the reason I upgraded my PC to the setup I have now, because I started the game on PS5, forced myself to stop playing it until I got my new PC with my 4090 to experience this game in all of its glory, and I do not regret a single thing. This game looks so freaking good. The story, the way the story is told, the mixture of live action sequences and gameplay sequences is amazing. The music and most of all, the vibe. It's so good. If you like survival horror and a well-told, albeit a little confusing story, you have to check this game out. I cannot wait what Remedy puts out next, and I also cannot wait to start my second playthrough because they added a different ending for NG+, and I really want to experience that as well. Another fun fact about me, I'm a big Souls fan. I love Miyazaki, I love From Software, and I adore the games they put out. For me, it's about overcoming my own fears and proving myself. It's about self-actualization. But it was not always like that. I remember vividly, like it was yesterday, how I returned Dark Souls because I couldn't get past the first boss, which I was not even supposed to fight at this point. I didn't understand what was going on and blamed bad design for my failure. I was not willing to learn the rules of the game, and after I watched some guys from the Rocket Beans playing it and enjoying it, and also explaining what the draw of the game actually is and how it works, it clicked for me. I understood that I was the problem and that I have to adapt to the rules of the game. I have to become a better player, and this is not just a hack and slay RPG. From that moment on, I felt a deep sensation and appreciation for the genre. Elden Ring put that sense on the map for many new players by letting them create their own difficulty. The new approach of having an open world works wonders in that regard because you can overlevel and overcome everything if you just put enough time and effort in exploring the world. It absolutely helps that this is one of the biggest and most interesting open worlds I have ever experienced. I lost hours upon hours upon hours to the game. At one point, no shit, I got up at 8 a.m., started playing at 9 a.m. and played until 4 a.m. the next morning. That's how hooked I was. I have to admit I was on vacation back then, so everything good here, right? This year, the DLC releases, Shadow of the Earth Tree, and I already booked vacation again for it because I cannot wait to dive back into the lands between and continue my journey. This is one of the best games ever made. There's no doubt about it, and if you haven't played it yet, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing here. Seriously, you have to play Elden Ring. It's just that good. If you know me, you know that I love Japanese role-playing games. In fact, I even try to learn Japanese to enjoy those games in the original language. I love anime, I love the Japanese city vibe, and I miss real friendship. I recently finished Persona 5 Royal after I played for over 160 hours combined from 2 separate playthroughs. One I started when it came out back in 2016, and one I started a few years ago when I bought Royal. It took me some time, but this game is absolutely amazing. It's a mixture of life sim, Pokemon-like monster collecting, and turn-based combat goodness. The art style is the best I've ever seen in a game, the music is pure gold, and the story and characters are so endearing I cried my eyes out when I finished the game, seriously. This game reminded me of how I felt when I was surrounded by actual friends, and how good it felt to be able to rely on the support and love of people I trust. Yeah, it also gave me a sense of actually living in Japan with all its glory and weirdness, and it was my comfort food for many years. It also kind of broke my soul because I haven't looked up how to enter the DLC and I missed it at the end, and I'm now 2 trophies short of getting the platinum, which is heartbreaking. In all honesty though, I love this game so fucking much, and I'm sure this will stick with me forever, and I'm so glad that I got to experience it. When I was younger, I always wanted to escape reality. I mean, this is true even to date, but the older you get, the more you have to come to terms with the fact that this is just not possible. If you would have asked me back then which reality I prefer, I most likely would have told you that I want to live inside the world of Harry Potter. There's just something about the world, the magic, and how it all works that gives me comfort. Every year, when autumn rolls around, I feel the urge to come back to the movies. I feel like I have to engulf myself in the world of Harry Potter. When I hear the tune, see the characters in a castle, I kind of feel safe and warm inside. And the same sensation strikes me when I play Hogwarts Legacy. I play this game in short bursts and I haven't finished it yet. It's just to soak in the vibe, and I also don't want to burn myself out on the gameplay. I do think it's a very competent game, don't get me wrong, but it's not the best. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. The gameplay is kind of on the more janky side and it's repetitive, but the world is the real star here, and it's a real highlight. All the mysteries, the vibe, the music, the castle, it's all there, and it really gives me the feeling like I am in this place. Someday I will try to run this with my Quest 3 and the Unreal Engine VR mod and experience this world in virtual reality, because this will be as close as I can to actually be able to escape to that place. And it will be glorious. I've never played an Armored Core game. I was aware of those, and I know there's almost a cult following behind them, but I've never gotten into it myself, which might be because I didn't own a PS2 when I was younger. When FromSoft announced their next game will be a mainline entry in the Armored Core series, I was not interested at first, but after seeing gameplay and hearing positive buzz from people I really trust, my curiosity grew more and more. When the game finally came out, I bought it day one, and while I still have to go through NG Plus and NG++ to experience all the missions the game has to offer, my first playthrough was a magical one. The gameplay is fast and flashy, the customization of the mechs being something I never would have imagined to pique my interest like it did, but I really enjoyed painting my mechs and trying out different guns and different setups. It's hard, but it's fair, and it's so much fun to play. I cannot stress this enough. The music is also great, and one boss fight in particular, which I will not spoil, got me vibing as hell. It was just so goddamn cool. The spectacle is over the top. I'm 100% certain I will get back to the game further down the line to experience the remaining missions and also to see all the different endings, because there's not much like it scratching that particular itch, and I'm excited to play some more of it.
Once something's alive, it doesn't die easy. 621.